Hey, living from our hearts really requires us to be disciplined, really requires us to disconnect from the things that, take us out of our heart space. So I think it's really important, when I wake up in the morning, my phone is on airplane mode. And it doesn't come off of airplane mode for about an hour into the day. And then at the end of my day, I also turn my phone on airplane mode. So I'm going to go to sleep soon, and one of the things that I like to do is read. And I like to read inspiring things. I like to read about God. I like to read about spirituality. I like to read about things that lift me up and give me access to living from my heart. So it could be reading about music, reading about metaphysics. So I'm reading this book now called The Mysticism of Sound and Music. And I wanted to read you a little bit from this book before I call it a day for today. So I wanted to include you in my reading. So this is the chapter called The Mysticism of Sound. And so it says, before its incarnation, the soul is sound. It is for this reason that we love sound. The man of science says that the voice comes from the spine, the diaphragm, the abdomen, and the lungs. The mystic says that sounds comes from the soul, the heart, and the mind. Let us see whether this is true. Before we sing or speak, the thought of singing or speaking comes. If we have not the thought, we cannot sing or speak. And before the thought, there is the feeling that causes the thought. In order to make the thought concrete, we must speak. The sound goes through the ear to the mind, the heart, and the soul. And when the thought is spoken, its power becomes greater. If a person speaks of his sorrow, its power becomes greater. If a person speaks of his sorrow, if he tells his grief to another, often he may begin to cry. While he kept the feeling in his heart, the thought in his mind, he did not cry. But when he spoke, when he said it out loud, he wept. Sometimes a humorous person, when telling something funny that he has seen, begins to laugh at his own words. I do that all the time. While he only thought of it, he did not laugh, but when he speaks of it, he laughs. If we keep a thought in our mind, it has not the strength that it has when we speak it out, the vibrations. If you repeat flower, 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 your mind will be much more impressed than if you think of the flower. This is why the Sufis repeat the name of God, and they don't only think of God. There are Sufis who repeat 99 names of God. That is the wazifa, the namaz. There are different ways of repeating the name of God. The effect produced is in accordance with the soul and the heart from which the sound comes. If there are 4 violinists, all of whom have studied for the same length of time, they all play the same piece of music one after the other. They will all play very differently. Each will play in accordance with his musical temperament, in accordance to his heart and his soul. Therefore, it is very necessary for a musician that his heart and his soul should also be trained. The force of the sound is in proportion to its duration. If we strike a stone, it gives out a short sound that has no effect. If we strike a bell, the sound is more lasting and the effect greater. If we prolong a tone, the effect is greater, for the life is greater. Sound is breath, the breath which is life. If there is a bell and a stone. And if an organ is played or a piano is played, the bell will give out a sound, but the stone will not. That which is alive gives out a sound that is alive. That which is dead gives none. The soul which is dead gives no sound. There's a lot of people walking around dead. You know, your soul may be completely just shut down and not even, there's no room for it to be expressed. So bringing ourselves to life, you know, really choosing, being really particular about what it is that you allow in your space, what it is that you allow to feed your mind, to feed your soul, and to feed your heart. I know some people fall asleep, you know, watching television, and depending what you have on, I don't know if that's a great idea, you know, leaving the news on or leaving some movies on or some shows on, and then allowing all of that to penetrate your mind and your heart and your soul while you sleep. So I really, really recommend you guys to take the time when you wake up and before you go to sleep to shut down, and then take in some soul food in the morning, and take in some soul food at night, whether that's listening to inspirational music, reading inspiring books that remind you of who you are, whatever it takes, but take the time for yourself so that you can really rest at night. Yeah. And then you can really take the time to wake up in the morning before you get bombarded with information and everything that comes with the day. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. This is day 16 of Living from the Heart, looking at how we can continually keep coming back to our heart, because that is, for me, the most important thing right now. I love you guys. Good night. Namaste. Thank you.